Hello and welcome to Community Forum. I am Heather Hansen O'Neill and I have a very exciting show for you today. As anyone who has seen the show knows, I focus on inspiration, connection, and contribution. And today we're going to be covering all three. Now, I had the wonderful experience of introducing my son to a new thing, Taekwondo. And it is fascinating, and not only is it an incredible martial arts form, but there's a lot involved in character development and contribution, and it's very exciting. So I decided to invite my son and another student, a friend, as well as the instructor and owner of the studio to share their insights with you today. So I'd like to introduce Kylie McHale, Luke O'Neill, and I'm going to give you a little bio for the owner, and it's Mr. Rob Bargehouse. And he is a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo, a first-degree black belt in Kempo Karate, and he is the owner and head instructor of Mr. Rob's American Tiger Martial Arts Academy. And we're going to learn a little bit more about the three of them, as well as what's behind the scenes of Taekwondo. How about I start with you, Mr. Rob? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? Did you really begin at age 7?
I did, yes. I started martial arts training when I was 7. I started in Taekwondo, and at the time I was 7 years old. I did it for a few years, and my instructor moved. He actually went back to Korea. So in that break, I took time off and I got involved in Kempo Karate, and I did that until about junior high school, and then my instructor came back from Korea, and he's in Massachusetts now. And I continue to train with him in Massachusetts. I also do some additional training in New Jersey with another instructor. But I've been involved with the martial arts now for just about 25 years, teaching and training, and it really is a empowering thing for anyone to do.
Yeah,
So.
I love it. I love the multiple aspects of it because it teaches you so much. And you say that Taekwondo in particular is a martial art that really does focus on both the character development as well as defense as well. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. Taekwondo, out of all the martial arts, Taekwondo is very unique in the fact that it focuses on not just the traditional side of the martial arts, which is really about development of the person, of the character, and the need not to ever resort to physical violence. But at the same time, we understand that that could be a possibility, and because of that, we train in unarmed combat. We always want to handle any situation first with nonviolent means, and then by the least violent means. So unlike some other martial arts that really focus on weapons and all sorts of crazy situations, scenarios, our main focus has been always on unarmed combat, and again, the character development that goes along with it. Taekwondo has a very sport-related, is very sport.
Gentleman right here, Mr. Luke O'Neill, is my son. He's fabulous. They're all fabulous, but of course, you have a special place in my heart. So why don't you tell me what you're learning in Taekwondo now?
I think we're learning a lot of respect, and I think it's making us realize that that we
well, the respect is a big part of it, right? I mean, and not only, what do you say when Mr. Rob asks you something?
We say yes, sir.
Yes, sir. That's very good. And there's something that you say in the beginning, and then something that you talk about in the end. Do you remember what those are called?
Student creed.
Yeah, the student creed you do in the beginning. And then what is it at the end? I actually don't remember. What is that called, something at the end?
Kylie, do you remember what we say at the end of all of our classes?
Yeah, there's the 5 aims of Taekwondo.
The 5 aims of Taekwondo.
Very good.
Could you share that with us, what those are?
Yeah, they're respect, humility, perseverance, self-control, and honesty.
Wonderful.
That's great.
That's fantastic. And why don't you, Mr. Rod, tell her we always have to call him Mr. Rod. It's
Yep.
all about the respect,
Very
of
good.
course.
Yep.
But tell us a little bit more about what you've learned in the process of both as a student and as a teacher. Are there any particular situations or students that have touched you, or anything that you've learned in that way from them?
That's interesting that you phrased it that way, because every student we start students at 4, and we have students. I have students now that are well into their 60s, and no matter what the age of the student, I always take a certain amount of pride in watching them grow, physically, mentally, seeing them surpass what they used to think that they could never do because they're small, or because they're overweight, or because they're shy, or because they're too old, no matter what it is. So for me, to say, is there any one student that touched me more than others, is a very hard question to answer, because I take a lot of pride in all of my students. And it's always a thrill for me to see a student get better, to see a student move to a new level. And on the flip side of that, it's always very painful to see a student go. I invest a lot of not just time, I guess that comes with the business, but a lot of emotion into all my students. I really generally care for all of them, and I want to see them succeed, and I want them to take any small part of the martial art, whether it be respect or self-confidence, or the perseverance to carry them through school or college or whatever it may be, away from the training. At the same time, it's always very hard to see anyone go,
Right. And I feel it, even though we haven't been with the Academy for a very long time. As soon as we went in, that was one of the things that stood out to me, is that you can feel that caring and that mutual respect.
Right.
It's not just respect from the student to the teacher,
Right.
but there is a mutual respect there, and that's really nice to be able to see.
I think that's important too,
It is,
because respect shouldn't be one way. That's not really respectful of anyone. Respect is a two-way street. And again, I kind of briefly touched on, I have students of all ages, and if you spend any time watching any number of classes, you're going to see me make the exact same bow back to a 4-year-old. That the 44-year-old makes to me.
Right.
So it's a two-way street.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I want to find out more about the different types of classes for the different ages and the different goals that people have. But let me ask you guys another couple of questions. Luke, I think you know how fond I am of the concept of contributing to others and giving to others. So what do you think that is a part of getting to the next level and the belts is something that I really like? Do you know what it might be?
Well, I don't really know. I think maybe the kindness.
That's it. I knew you would get it. So tell a little bit more about what's involved in that.
Well, we have these kindness sheets, and if we complete them, we have a few other things that we have to do to earn a belt.
Good. So that's a part of getting to the next level. And these kindness sheets, is this you're writing down different, was it like acts of kindness that you do for someone else? So I bet that's something that encourages them to think along those lines, right?
That's the idea. Yeah. That's the idea. Taekwondo is an art that you mentioned briefly that we start every class with a student creed. Right. And that is supposed to develop the family atmosphere that you said you feel, that team atmosphere, that we're there for each other. But throughout every class too, and especially at the end of the class, we touch on it, and the kids were great mentioning it. They're called the 5 aims of Taekwondo. But in addition to that, there are tenets and creeds that go along with this martial art. We're very fortunate that the martial art that we practice preaches through our actions ways that we can become better citizens. And one of the things that I learned even as a very young student was that the best form of self-defense is to be kind and generous to other people. And I think everyone has heard the phrase random acts of kindness. What most people may not know is Random Acts of Kindness is a national organization. And we have partnered this year with Random Acts of Kindness, which is why I've introduced these sheets. Kindness and courtesy are two of the tenets of the martial arts. And it works perfectly that we might as well, instead of just talking about it every day for the kids, actually go and put our money where our mouth is. We talk about respect, we talk about kindness. Well, let's go see if we can practice that every day and have the kids, just like a journal at the end of the night, jot down one, two, three things that they did kind for somebody else for no reason other than to be kind.
Right.
And they bring them back in, and we put it towards all the other curriculum that they need to master to get their next belt.
I absolutely love it because it's all about what you focus on, right? And you're teaching them new habits.
Correct.
That, of course, at home we're going to be all over.
Good.
So I love that. Miss Kylie, I watched you in the class before you moved up to your next belt, and you have a wonderful presence and strength in your movements. Do you feel like you became more confident in these classes, or did you always have that?
I think I've gotten a lot more confident because when I was little, I used to be really, really shy, and it's made me be able to talk to more people and try new things.
Yeah, well, that's a big part of it.
I would love to mention something about Miss Kylie over there.
Yeah.
She's being very modest. When Miss Kylie started lessons with me, she didn't even start in classes. Kylie was so shy that we just did private lessons, just the two of us. And we did that for 6 months, a long time. We did that for a long, long time. So not only has she really come out of her shell, and yes, she can talk to other people, but she's doing the group classes now, and she's really thriving in them. She's much more confident. She can speak up. You said she has a presence in class. When she first